What is the difference between a mass shooter and an active shooter? Well, it depends on who you ask, duh. Jokes, but also kind of serious. In short, one is an FBI term, the other is a designation with a wide array of meanings. The FBI has a designation of active shooter. An active shooter is anyone who is about to, is currently, or very recently shot at one plus person. So they can be on the run, but usually when they're on the run, the suspect becomes known as armed and dangerous. So once it's clear that they're no longer actively shooting, their designation actually becomes something else. The real intent of the label active shooter is to designate an event that is happening right now. In other words, while someone is shooting, they are an active shooter. Once they clearly stop and flee, then they are no longer an active shooter. This is a somewhat helpful, but also problematic designation, though, because technically anytime someone is shooting others, they are an active shooter. So if there were another case like Andrew Cunanan, a spree shooter, then they could possibly be labeled as an active shooter until it was figured out what they were actually doing. Likewise, some mass shooters actually hit multiple places in their crimes, so this can also create a confusion. So I think it helps to think of it like this. A serial killer is somebody that has 3+ victims with a cooldown period between the killings, and usually a signature of some kind, which is either in the killing or the leaving of evidence. Then there are spree killers, which are people that have 3+ victims in multiple locations, generally without much of a cooldown period between the killings. And an active shooter is anyone that is currently shooting at people, and these are the definitions that the FBI uses. We have to keep in mind that crime labels are fluid. For instance, is a hitman a serial killer? Not necessarily, and most of them would not be. They're just doing a job. Serial killers have a non-financial incentive for killing. So most hitmen would only do it if the money is there, but ones that would do it without the money, they're also serial killers. See, there's a slight difference there. And this is the thing that's rather annoying to me about these kind of definitions. They use numbers, but are actually talking about different types of people. It should be said, though, however, the FBI does have a definition for mass killing, which is 4 or more people killed in an act of violence. And this is actually really the only stat that they keep related to mass killings or mass shootings at all, just this one general stat. In other words, oddly, the FBI just doesn't have a definition for mass shooter or mass shooting. The designation actually falls to the different agencies that collect data and can range from 3+ people shot to 4+ deaths. This creates a massive discrepancy in data that the media then uses to push certain perspectives, sometimes even the exact opposite perspective. Just depends on the news piece itself, not even really on the network, which is interesting to me. But that said, the FBI's definition of mass murder includes things like bombings, shootings, any type of activity that causes more than 4 people to die. So they're not just cataloging mass shootings. But these other agencies are. I have my theories about this and what it means, but you'll have to wait for one of my longer forthcoming videos like the one about mass shooting season, for instance, for me to expound upon this. So just remember that active shooter is an FBI designation, and while it's happening kind of label. Mass shooter is an ill-defined term with a multiplicity of meanings starting at 4+ victims. When most people are thinking about a mass shooting, they're actually thinking about a mass shooting thrill kill. For instance, the Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting in Las Vegas, or the Aurora Theater shooting in Colorado. And they're actually pretty rare, because when you think about mass shootings, it also includes a lot of statistics that are not about that. But for now, you'll just have to remain patient. So subscribe below. And if you'd like to delve way more into the definition of a mass shooting, I highly recommend this video about the first mass shootings, which happened way before any of the events you've likely heard of. Yes, even Charles Whitman in the Tower and Howard Unruh's Walk of Death.